Greetings and salutations, everybody. David Duford here. It is March 9th, 2020, starting to feel like spring. Thank goodness. You're on another Fundamentals Final Expense Sales Training event where we talk about the fundamentals of selling final expense. Some days we talk about specific topics related to closing more final expense business. Other days, like today, we bring on a special guest to talk about products and familiarize yourself with some of the best carriers that are out there. So we're going to be speaking momentarily to Randy, and Randy I see on, I'll bring on in just a second. Randy works with Family Benefit Trinity Life, and he's going to walk us through the, I believe it's the Golden Eagle product. They're a fantastic final expense product. Now, a couple of housekeeping notes here. First of all, congratulations to Mr. John Dean. He wrote $7,300 in business last week. He did 18 appointments and wrote 11 policies. He was the #1 producer of the week. So congrats there. We're doing that weekly production board. So if you want to contribute your production just to see how things are going, it's completely voluntary. Feel free to look on the training website under resources. You'll see where you can do it. And I'll be happy to report top producers here on a regular recurring basis. Now, yeah, I know it is. He was very disappointed too. Anyways, he wanted 10,000, but 7,000 will have to suffice. I'm doing a training come sometime in April 24th, 2020. 1-day final expense fundamental sales training. You're welcome to join. It is free of cost to you. It's going to be a 1-day training event to learn everything that you need to know in order to sell final expense successfully. Hold on one second. I think I'm sharing my screen here. Hold on one second. Oh, whoops. Oh, Randy, I think that's you. Hold on one second. I'll put you back on just a second. Yeah, I agree. If you want to be here for the April 24th training, April 24th, FE Fundamentals in-person training in Chattanooga. You'll see a link in the chat below. Just click on that link. If you're watching this as a recording and you want it later, just email me. I'll send it to you. I'm looking for somewhere between 10 and 15 people tops, keeping it small, keeping it lean. It's going to be a crash course on everything you need to do to sell final expense successfully. Also, please stay tuned. Some of you have expressed interest. I sent out an annuity event training survey. We're probably going to do the annuity face-to-face group training the day before that event. It's on the schedule of things to think through and work. So you'll probably hear about that more next week. That will be like this event, but completely focused on annuities. So it should be fantastic. If you're interested, let me know. But either way, I'll send out the reservation list next week. Okay. Let's see. Any questions? I don't know, Gerardo. I don't know for sure. I might be. I don't know. It's something I got to talk to about with Scott and see about putting it together. So let me get back to you. Best I could say. Okay. Where is Randy? Randy, are you there?
I am.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, man. You ready to roll? Do your thing?
Ready to roll? Yeah, I'm going to be looking at PowerPoint on my end. Do you want me to bring that up so everyone can see as well?
Yeah, go ahead and share it when you're ready. I'm all in. So just as you do that, just to preempt you. So this is Randy. What's your last name?
Ryder.
Randy Ryder from Family Benefit Trinity Life. Family Benefit Trinity Life, a good, great company. Been working for them for many years. I have a fantastic final expense product. And really the reason he's on here is just I invited him to come talk product, learn more about how it works, and help answer your questions as to why one would want to use them. So Randy, whenever you're ready, feel free to share your PowerPoint. We can get started.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, let me get it started here. Okay, well, welcome. Good morning to everybody. My name's Randy with Trinity and Family Benefit. Same company operated out of the same office. The name's just going to depend on what state you're doing business in. So this will be our Golden Eagle final expense product. It's a simplified issue product offering a day one death benefit for ages 50 to 85. Benefit amounts from $2,500 to $25,000. If it's not issued as day one, another option would be graded, and that's for ages 50 to 80. The first year death benefit is going to be calculated by a factor, which you can find inside the agent guide, but it's typically going to be more than like a guarantee issue policy with the, premium plus 10% return. So another option there. Second year would be 50% of the original death benefit, and after the second year would be access to the full death benefit. And for graded, those amounts are for only $2,000 to $10,000. Golden Eagle comes with a built-in accelerated living benefit rider, and there are two ways to trigger this rider for acceleration. The first is if the insured becomes diagnosed with a terminal illness that with reasonable medical certainty will result in the death of the insured within 12 months. The second way would be if they become confined continuously to a qualified nursing home with confinement expected to last until death. So those are two different ways that rider could be accelerated. It's no additional premiums, just built into every policy. They're only going to pay for it if used, and that would be when they do accelerate it. No additional premium. There'd be a few subtractions. We would subtract $150 just due to our acquisition cost of getting the medical records, and then also like 7.4% of the death benefit. Since insurance companies make their money on interest earnings, there will be a slight deduction, but you're still going to be getting around 90% of the benefit for your clients. In this particular form here, when setting with the client, you would not upload this to the agent portal or fax in. This would just be signed and left with the client, just stating that you explained to them the ways that the rider can be triggered for acceleration. This is the application. Kind of a short app. Try to make it as simple as possible when you're in the house with the client. Section 1 is going to gather all the applicant's personal information: name, date of birth, social security number, address, etc. Section 2, if there's a separate owner, that information can be gathered there. Third section, pretty simple, is where you want the premium notices sent to, whether it be the insured owner or if there's a different payer, could also have them sent to them as well. Section 4 will gather the beneficiary information. Let's say that there wasn't going to be contingent, there was going to be two primaries. If you're doing a paper app, simply cross out contingent initial, write in the name of the client with the percentage for each. The date of birth and social security are not going to be required, but your client would enjoy you to include that because when it comes down, when they're actually going to have to file a claim, if we have the date of birth and social security number, that's going to help us identify the correct beneficiary and get them paid on time accordingly. Okay, next, this will be an exploded view of Section 5 of the application. This mainly applies for people who are going to be doing the paper app option. There's a couple different ways this could be filled out. So first, you'll select which plans are being applied for: simplified or graded, non-tobacco or tobacco. APL, this is something I like to point out to all agents. This stands for automatic premium loan. Let's say your client's a card paying policy, card numbers change often, they forget to call and update that information. We will end up borrowing their monthly premium payment from their cash value to keep the policy in force. until they either contact us and update that card information, or we will continue borrowing from that cash value until it runs out. Next, you would select the premium mode, whether that be annual, semi-annual, quarterly, or monthly. Next line, you would write in the face amount, and then the premium, which in this situation is going to be monthly. In the premium collected box, you would only write in a number in that section if you collected a check at the time of application, check or money order, in which case you'd be leaving behind the conditional receipt. But you will only fill in this line here if you collect a check at the time of application. But in most cases, it's going to be a bank draft. You'll leave that blank, check mark the box that says none, draft first premium. And let me get to my correct page here. Okay, so for the third line, there's a few different ways this could be filled out. This is going to determine the draft date and the issue date. If your client wants to draft the 1st or the 28th of the month, simply fill in this first section, write in 11/3 if you're meeting with the client on that day and you want it to draft immediately. Or you could select the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th Wednesday. A lot of clients, since they're receiving their income from Social Security, you can just select that right on that section of the application, and you go from there. Example 2 here, we do have a 45-day requested effective date. And this PowerPoint was built, back in October, which is why the dates are what they are. But let's say you were meeting with a client today who didn't want their policy to draft until April 20th. With us, you're going to have the option to go out that far, since we do have a 45-day requested effective date, whereas most companies have a 30-day. So there'll be certain situations where that comes into play. This last example here, you could have a client that you're meeting with, let's say on the 5th of November, and they want it to draft immediately, but then they would like all of their remaining drafts to be on the 3rd of the month. So in that situation, you'll write in the current date for the immediate draft, and then there's a section at the bottom of the application, a little space for you to fill in. It's related to some health questions. If there's a certain condition, you can fill in. You can also use this section to write in, please draft upon issue with all future drafts to occur on the 3rd of the month beginning in December 2019. So if it's a paper wrap and you have any details like that to add, that can be done in that section. If there's not enough room, simply upload another piece of paper and have it signed and dated with any instructions. All right, moving on to section 6, that just asks if the proposed insured has any existing life insurance coverage, and if any of the existing coverage will be discontinued if the policy they're applying for is issued. Pretty standard there. The next section will ask, has any other life insurance company declined to issue, reinstate, renew, modify, rated? That's another one, if that's a yes answer, you can fill in details there in that section at the bottom of the application. Number 8 asks if the proposed insured is a United States citizen, and if the owner is a United States citizen. They do not have to be citizens, but they do have to be permanent residents. Okay, questions 9 and 10 will deal with the insured's height and weight, and then also ask if there was any weight gain or loss in the past year. Inside of the final expense agent guide, about the 4th page in, you can find the build chart with the height and weight for the final expense policy. It'll be unisex, so there's no male or female. It's straight across the board. Then questions 11 through 20 on the application are going to be what we refer to as the knockout questions. If you get a yes answer, any of these questions from your client, they're going to be denied coverage and not be eligible. However, if you get through that section with no yes answers, move on to question 21 and 22. This will be the rated questions. You know, if you get a yes answer to either of these, rated is going to be the best that it's going to be able to be issued. And again, highlighted in green is that section at the bottom of the app if there's any additional details that you need to add. Okay, this is the back of the application, and I'll just point out a couple areas that agents miss. You can see highlighted, you know, there's this section you can check if you would like a copy of your inspection report, if there is one. The MIB notice and Fair Credit Reporting Act is just a little check mark box, yes or no. And then there's a section kind of hidden right in the middle of the back of the app that, you know, it's for the client. I also acknowledge that I paid the agent blank an initial premium in exchange for the conditional receipt. This would only be if you're collecting a check at the time of application. And then also an acknowledgement that your client did receive the accelerated benefit disclosure. And another thing I see, you know, agents miss quite often would be the signed at city and state section of the application. If you're doing a paper app and you don't have this filled in, when you upload it, you know, you're going to get an email asking you to send in a corrected application. Another section here where you can indicate where you would like to have the policy sent to, whether it be the agent or the owner. In most cases, unless you like hand delivering your policies, I would just send it straight to the owner. Then the bottom section, this will be, you know, for any policy you have, it's going to be checking your savings account, not timed with Social Security, you know, just drafting on the 1st through the 28th of the month. This section would be where you're going to collect their bank or savings account information. And if it's ever a card paying policy, they will always collect that information on the interview, and they'll convert it to like a 24-digit alphanumeric code. We ask that no card information is ever uploaded to the portal or faxed in. Okay, and another reason that a lot of our agents like doing business with us is because of our Social Security billing form. What this does is it will time your client's draft with when the government deposits the funds into their account. This really comes into play on the 1st or the 3rd of the month. You know, it's going to be the 1st, 3rd, or the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th Wednesdays that they're receiving their Social Security benefits. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Wednesdays are typically not a problem because the banks are usually always open. But where this form comes into play is with clients getting their money on the 1st or the 3rd. Let's say the 1st falls on a Sunday, and for the agents who did use the Social Security form, we're going to go ahead and draft their client's account on that Friday prior, because that's when the government's going to go ahead and give them their money. So if you use this form, we will also time it with when the government puts the money in their account. Without using this form, we would wait to the following Monday to draft, and at which point, you know, a lot of times the money's already been removed from the account and you get a chargeback headed your way. So any clients receiving money Social Security, I always recommend to use this form, especially if it's on 1st or the 3rd when they're receiving their funds. Another thing to help with field underwriting is going to be our prescription checklist. It's color-coded to help determine how the policy can be issued. For example, the medication in red, like Aricept, for treating dementia, would show on the report. You would know that you know, this is going to be declined. It's not even worth your time to call to complete the interview. Next color would be yellow. If a medication in yellow shows up, it's going to be declined if it was filled in the past year, but could be issued graded if only filled in the past 13 to 24 months. The next will be any medication in green. If it's been filled at all in the past 2 years, graded will be the best that it can be issued as. Oh. As you'll see, though, a majority of the medications on the list are going to be in blue, and those are labeled as alert drugs. What that means, if that shows on your client's prescription check, they're going to ask you on the phone interview, we see that your client is taking lisinopril. What's the reason for taking? And then the decision is going to be based off of how they answer that question. With each application, if you're going to try to get some coverage for a client, you will be doing a telephone interview. You'll hear it referred to as a PHI. MRS will be the company that conducts that. Their hours are going to be 8 a.m. Central to 9 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday, and then 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central on Saturdays. You're going to get point of sale approval on the call, whether it's simplified, graded, or declined. At least you'll know while you're in the home with the client, and you'll have the opportunity to place them with another company if they will accept them. You're going to have two options when you initially make this phone call. Once they verify your agent number and that you are active in the system, they'll then ask you if this is going to be a paper app or a tele app. The difference being the paper app is going to be essentially the abbreviated interview. You're going to give them the client's information. You will then put the client on the phone to verify. And at that time, they'll ask the client all the health questions. While they're doing that, they're going to be running an MIB check and a prescription check. So once they get through the health questions with your client, they'll then ask to put the agent back on the phone. Then they'll give the agent the underwriting decision, letting you know if they're approved or declined. And with the paper app, at that point, you would be done with the interview unless it is a card-paying policy, at which point they will collect that information. But after the decision's been given, you'll be done with the paper app. Upload through the portal or fax in the application, then any replacement or any other required forms. Or if you elect the tele-app option, they will continue gathering all the information off the application. Voice authorizations for HIPAA, any replacement forms, any place on the application where there would be a signature, there will just be a voice signature. And once you are done with that, you will not have to upload any paperwork. It'll immediately be transferred over to our administration office, and the policy will be issued out immediately. And we do see that with the tele-app, policies are usually issued up to at least a business day quicker, just due to not having to wait for the client or for the agent to upload the application. Paper app typically runs about, average times like a 14-minute phone call. Tele-app runs anywhere from about 20 to 25 minutes, unless you have a client that has 10 medications in blue and they're going to ask about each of them. That can extend the interview. But if the client allows it, doesn't mind being on the phone, and neither do you, I would be going the tele-app option every time, just to not have to mess with uploading any paperwork. Two different ways to submit. You can submit through the agent portal, upload it that way digitally, or you can fax in to our administration office. On the agent forms section of our website, you have access to get the cover sheets and everything like that. If you do a paper app, you'll get a couple email notifications. One, when the application's been received. Two, if there's any requirements, meaning any changes or corrections need to be made to the application. Third email when it's been sent to the administration office, and then a last email when the policy has been mailed out. At this time, for our final expense, that's really it on the process. Let me try to pull this back down. If anybody has any questions about anything, I'd be glad to answer it. A couple things we do that a lot of other companies are getting away from. We still will take card-paying clients. One thing you will note in our agent guide is we just do not allow more than 20% of an agent's block of business to be card-paying. And the same thing with insulin-dependent clients. We will take, we'll give insulin-dependent clients day one coverage, but no more than 20% of an agent's block of business. And the main thing we try to avoid is, only getting agents card paying insulin business. Usually if we see that's the case, you'll get an email from someone here stating, hey, send us some good, clean business. But for the agents giving us a good majority, we are happy to take all card paying and insulin dependent clients. With the health questions on the application are pretty straightforward. I mean, I would read them word for word in the field. If you get all no answers and you checked as much as possible on the prescriptions they're taking, you should have a pretty good idea before you even make that phone call how the policy is going to be issued. A couple other things. We do have a lead bonus credit for any agent who issues more than $5,000 in annualized premium in a month. You'll get a 5% lead bonus credit. So if you were to issue $10,000 in a month, you'll get a $500 credit for that.
All right. So I got some questions for you. I'm going to go ahead and got a few here. So you guys have a unique way of setting up advancing for agents. Can you explain how that works?
We do multiple different ways. We don't advance more than $1,000 per policy. And then you guys are on the kind of the split advance, correct, Dave?
Yeah, that's what I was referencing.
Yeah, so you guys will get like 37% when the application is submitted, meaning once we receive it at the administration office, and then you'll get the remaining 38% of your advance once that policy drafts. So basically, you're going to get half of your money when you submit it, and then the other half once we get paid.
Yeah, I think you guys are the only ones in the business and final expense, at least I know, that does that. It's
yeah, a few. A lot of companies will, you can get paid same day with a lot. We are just not there yet, which can be inconvenient for some agents. But if you're out there writing plenty of business, hopefully that's not a big problem. Which in the future, I would see that eventually changes will probably be made there down the road.
Sure. So a couple other questions on the app. There's a question that says, have you been declined, rated up, etc.? Does a yes answer imply that he or she will be declined with family benefit Trinity Life? Or
so that's not going to affect how the decision is made. I mean, we really only care about the health questions and the prescriptions. That's more for our record. But yeah, that's not gonna affect how the policy is issued.
Okay. And when you ask for initials, like if you're doing a contingent beneficiary, you put the initials RR. I assume that's yours.
That was mine. Yeah, just have the client any additional papers you'd be sending in. Just have the client sign and date.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So do they need to initial by that part too?
They won't need to, no. Mainly the client's signature is going to be the only thing that's going to matter. We just want to make sure that that's information they approve, since we're going to have the agent's signatures and everything else recorded. And then mainly, with doing the phone interview, some agents think it's inconvenient because I've been in the field myself, and you get some clients who just simply do not want to make a phone call. One thing I have learned, though, is it is very good for your protection. Down the road, you could have a client file a complaint and say, hey, I never signed up for insurance with this person, or this person came in and lied to me. Well, luckily with us, that whole interview is going to be recorded. We can always go right back, get to the bottom of it. So it's pretty clear. So that's one thing I've learned, that it's very important to save you a lot of trouble down the road.
Do you guys get much of the graded business? I mean, as a percentage of your block of business,
I couldn't put a percentage on it, but just on what I look at on a daily basis, I would say roughly, maybe 10 to 15%, 7 to 50%, something like that.
I think it would be safe to say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you guys want the healthiest business that's out there.
Oh, we would love that. Yeah, we would love, but also, there's still some issues with graded that we're happy to take, just due to the uppage in rates a little bit. We will what we dislike the most would be, mainly would be card paying, just because due to cards, numbers change and everything lapse. It's more expensive on our end to operate, but no, we're fine. And typically most policies I see that go graded are always due to some type of lung issue, whether they're on a couple different inhalers.
Yeah.
Things of that nature.
Now I'll add, my comment has been, y'all will take certain inhalers under certain situations, but experientially it seems as if somebody's got a lung disease, it's a little more touchy with you guys.
A little more touchy, yeah. And typically the only ones I see that are even declined would be if it's an inhaler that can also be a dual use for a COPD
right
inhaler. If it's most cases, if it's just seasonal allergies and they're on the real common inhalers, that's never going to be a problem. That'll be based off of how when that medication shows on the prescription check on the interview, they're going to base if it can be simplified or graded based on how they answer it. And pretty much the frequency of use, that's really what that's going to come down to. But there are a couple inhalers that are for a COPD maintenance medication. If that's on there, that's going to be graded every time.
So just to go back a couple of steps for my new agents, just in case you're unfamiliar with what we mean by card paying clients, we're referring to people who have direct express cards. We're referring to people who pay on a debit or a credit card. Historically, that business is a low persistency. Like Randy was saying, people lose their cards. So then they have to get new cards with new numbers and new security numbers, so on and so forth. And so what happens is, on an automatic billing basis, there's a higher chance of a lapse occurring because of it. Plus the cards expire in a future date. So these are things that we all have to deal with. So Direct Express, Giovanni, is a program really offered to people starting their fixed income. And there's a ton of people, it's incredible, millions that are unbanked. They don't have a bank account at SunTrust or Bank of America. They just kind of are cash and carry types, always have been. And the government doesn't drop checks in the mail anymore because grandma would get her check stolen by the, addicted grandkids or whatever, So it was a big hassle. So what ended up happening is it was required maybe about 5 or 6 years ago to have all Social Security checks paid to direct deposit. It was required. And so what happens is that bottom line, the good news is now we've got more people to draft because they're forced to have accounts. But a lot of these people that cannot get a bank account because they don't know how to manage money end up with a Direct Express card. So invariably what happens is that that business tends to skew poor quality because they're not used to drafts, that kind of thing. You think that's an accurate assessment, Randy?
Yeah, I would definitely say. And, just due to card numbers always changing every few years, a lot of clients don't call to give us that new information. Then a lot of cases, they have that Direct Express card, and as soon as they get the money, they just go to the bank and pull it all out of the bank. So when we do go to draft, there may only be $5 in there.
Right. Yeah. Couple of
I'm sure there's some statistics out there that would show the percentage of the business.
Right.
And for us, we've just seen bank pay tends to stick on the books longer, but like we say, for the agents who are giving us their business, we're glad to take cards. Sometimes that's going to be the only way you're going to be able to get an app, is if they can pay by card.
John Roberts, I see your question. I'll address that after we're wrapped up here. Giovanni follows up and says, Randy, also, will Trinity tell us the agent that their client's credit card number is expired or the number is no longer valid so that we can call directly and get it updated?
Yeah, so they're not going to email in that much detail. Typically what it is, once your clients, once they miss their premium payment by, I believe it's 10 days, you're going to get an email from us just saying, hey, policy conservation opportunity. And it's going to give the client's name. So you'll get an email basically saying that they have missed their payment. So it will be upon you, reach out to them, see if you can get that updated information. They can always call our home office or straight to our policy service department and make those changes to get that information updated. But yes, you will be, any issues like that, you will be communicated with through.
And then I'll answer this one. Direct Express is not EBT. Direct Express is really, just think of it as a checkless checking account. So people who have Direct Express cards can't write checks many times because they owe the bank money, and they can't set up traditional bank drafts. So they're forced to use a card. They get their money deposited just like a normal checking account, but they use their card to pay for everything, including setting up recurring drafts. So it's a lot better of a deal for that group of people. That's just a cash and carry mentality, but it brings these kind of host of issues that you've got to manage, like quality of business. You're required with every Direct Express carrier I know of now, maybe exception of like Great Western, you're required to do Social Security deposit billing. And the reason is why? Because you got to beat these people to the ATM. You know, they'll pull all their money out to buy smokes and booze if you're not careful, and you don't want to let that happen. So, no, it's serious. You'll see. Okay.
Yeah, a couple chargebacks, it'll make you want to stay away from cards completely. I mean,
and that's the other thing. So Direct Express with Trinity is as earned commission. So that means you're only paid the monthly percentage of your commission, not the 9 months. Okay. So do not expect an advance with this business for all the reasons we've already mentioned. And trust me, you do not want to be in a situation where you have carriers that advance on Direct Express. It's kind of a temptation, but it typically comes back to bite you. In fact, I don't know, Randy, if you're around, but there was a carrier, 5-star, a couple of years back. They had a hot run for 3 years and loose underwriting, and they ended up having huge chargeback issues in lieu of them getting out of the market that rolled up. And a lot of it was Direct Express. They advanced commission on it. So
yeah, not a good idea. And which from an agent standpoint, I would prefer it as earned as well, because they're, nothing worse than having a couple card paying policies, fall off the books, and then you've got $1,500 in chargebacks.
And if you're wondering how to avoid Direct Express, since we're on this conversation topic, we can see about putting an income filter on your direct mail leads if you're using one. I find that a 10 or 15,000 bottom filter kind of knocks a lot of that low income, super low income range out. But not always. Sometimes it's regional. There's some parts of the country where everybody and their mother has a Direct Express. I was talking to an agent in Louisiana, and he said 60% of his clients had Direct Express, which to me is just like, oh man, how do you run a business like that? Because you don't get advances. Cash flow is a problem. So if you're running into that or worried about that, just reach out to me. I'll give you some other strategies that you can employ that can hopefully mitigate, or you can't completely get rid of it, but reduce it considerably. Any e-apps, electronic apps in the future, Randy?
So in the future, at some point, that's something that I'm always discussing with Alvin, because personally, I prefer e-apps.
Right.
Get out of the house quicker, just because I'm inputting information while I'm talking. Alvin loves the recording portion of the interview.
Yeah.
So we have talked about possibly maybe an e-app where you guys can go in and data enter, kind of like MRS's system, who they conduct the interview. We're thinking it would eventually be a login to their system. You get the data enter everything, and then there may just be a short couple-minute phone call associated with it, just to get a few recordings, for your safety. So that's something we're trying to work out on this end. But absolutely something I'm pushing for sure.
Okay, perfect.
But no time frame.
Gotcha. So last point, unless anybody else has questions, now's the time to ask them in the chat. What would you say are the top 3 reasons why an agent would want to selectively write Trinity Family Benefit over other carriers?
Number one, to me, I would say, due to us being a smaller insurance company, you're going to get more personalized service. I will say I get compliments daily from agents. They're like, man, thank you. That took 5 minutes. That would have taken me an hour and a half or days with other companies. We take pride in getting on top of things, getting it done. Love to help out for sure. Another thing would be, the fact of taking card and insulin, where a lot of companies don't. That is an advantage there. Another reason would be lead bonus. If you're giving us a good chunk, you're going to be getting some money towards leads each month. And our trips as well. I mean, we typically have a higher caliber trip than most other companies. That would be for you and a guest, and you will not be getting a 1099 for that. So typically most trip last year was about $10,000 per agent, for them and a guest. So that's $3,000 in tax savings right there.
What's the trip right now?
So the upcoming trip here in a month or so is going to be to Lisbon and Porto, Portugal. I believe it's like 6 days, 7 night, or
and that was based off of last
year. So this upcoming year is going to be the Dromelin Castle in Ireland.
Cool. Okay.
3-night stay there, and then I believe you'll be moving along to another place for a few days. But yeah, so Dromelin Castle in Ireland.
Great. At Buck comments, price. It's a good reason to write Trinity for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, price, of course, yeah. I mean, you can look in your quote tools. We're always at the top. Able to beat a lot of companies, which means then that much harder for another agent to come behind and replace your policy.
Yeah.
If they don't have us to write, especially with certain health conditions, there's just certain things that just cannot be beat. So definitely price. The point of sale approval. It's good to know while you're in the home. I'll probably be the one thing. I know we don't touch on it, but we do also have the first whole life product. Especially if you're in a price competition, those rates are 15 to 20% lower than Golden Eagle. If you've got a healthy client, that would be an option to go as well. Mm-hmm. More rate, but that's available.
I'll add my experience here on your note of pricing. So, as you guys know, I replace when it's in the best interest of the client, as all of us should. But the truth is if you run across some carrier that's competitively priced, it becomes much more difficult. So I recalled a case down in Alabama in Gadsden, and a gentleman had a $80 a month policy with family benefit, Trinity Life, and I couldn't do anything for the guy. His price was rock solid. It may have been a year or two old. Not that I'd replace any of family benefits business.
Yeah.
But I couldn't if I wanted to.
Yeah.
The thing is that guy wanted a better deal if he could get it, but he wasn't going to drop his good deal because of it, right? So, that's the advantage of writing competitively priced carriers in certain situations. It keeps us guys out,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but then too, mainly, I feel like, having Alvin as a resource. I mean, he is an insurance guru. He knows it all. I've learned a ton from him. But if you're ever in a situation you're not sure the answer, always feel free to call here. Ask us. I do all the risk assessments. Everything with final expense.
You're the underwriting guy. Okay, yeah.
Well, so it's going to be like Alvin or Mike Buckwhite who actually goes in and changes the decision. But as far as you tell me a health issue, I'll usually be the one handling that, looking up the meds, all that. So try to help guide you towards the what's going to suit you best.
Yeah, and if you like a small company feel, guys, Trinity Family Benefit does a fantastic job of doing that. It almost as if Alvin doesn't do anything but handle phone calls, because anytime I ever call him, it's like, hey, what's up? Or I send him an email, I get an email back within hours. It's just
his work ethic is on top level. I mean, it's incredible.
Oh yeah. So Buck adds, tele-app is easier than any e-app I've ever done. Yeah, I agree. There's some advantages just to doing it over the phone. To me, it's in some ways it's equivalent. I like an e-app to a certain extent, but tele-app's about the same to me.
Yeah, and makes the agent seem credible. We're calling it. This is a legitimate guy who just walked in the house.
Yeah.
His phone call seems to be pretty professional. But yeah, super simple process, and we are constantly working back and forth with MRS to make any changes.
Right.
That can speed it up. We're getting it implemented right now. Where if you happen to have a different owner or payer. Used to, you would have to do that as a paper app only. We're eventually getting that changed to where you can do a tele app with a separate owner or payer. You're just going to have them on the phone call. They'll get a voice signature with them as well. So that may be a situation of doing a 3-way call, something like that. But constantly making changes to try to make it smoother for you guys out in the field. And with the tele app too, you're not going to have any mistakes on the application. Just because it's being done all instantly, it's really going to save you time in the long run. if the the client allows it. That's what I would do.
Right. Well, Randy, thank you for your time. Very informative meeting. And
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Would love to have you back. I'll reach out sometime in the future and we'll do this again. Okay.
Yeah, like I say, and you guys have any more questions, feel free to call, ask for me anytime. Glad to walk you through anything or answer any questions you've got.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Randy.
Have a good day.
All right. So thank you so much, Randy, for your time. I'm recording this, of course. So if you want to go walk through this process again of learning more about Trinity Life, if you came in late, I'm going to be putting this up probably on YouTube. So we'll review it there. And then also, if you look in the chat, there is a link to a webpage of mine where I did a review of Trinity Life Family Benefit. So if you want to click that, it's got a ton of extra information to kind of build on what Randy said. And if you're considering using them, check that page out for more resources. So before I let y'all go, I've got a good question I know has been on my mind, it's been on a lot of people's minds, and that's from John. He says, what do you guys see is going to happen to the final expense industry due to the coronavirus? So in a sense, I think this is just one man's opinion, right? I think that this is there's a level of hysteria here that is unmitigated. I think that the media does a good job of massaging crises, legitimate crises, into the point of affecting people's minds to a crazy event, a crazy effect. And if you're constantly glued into the media and you're constantly digesting information, it magnifies the level of effect that it has on you. I mean, if you guys are old enough, some of you are, to remember was it SARS, bird flu, pig flu, whatever it was. That kind of sounded like the same kind of stuff when it first happened. Very intense, always in the news, but not as intense as this is now. I think partially because we now have social media and everybody's talking about this. I mean, I hear this in regular conversations unrelated. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think really anybody knows. I do know that people tend to overreact when crises happen, as if you're watching the stock market, it's kind of a good indicator of it. But there's always opportunity when it comes to crises or downfalls. The last recession I jumped into, the final expense business, the Great Recession, right in the middle of it. It was a great time to be in the business, despite any sort of viral risk. The truth is that the fundamentals are still the fundamentals. Don't forget the fundamentals. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Seniors are retiring in huge numbers. They need coverage of some kind. Many of them need life insurance coverage. And Jay kind of made a kind of tongue-in-cheek point, but I think it's worth mentioning. More people will sign up with the fear of catching it and dying. There's actually life insurance policies that are putting exclusionary riders on it. So I thought that was kind of funny, I guess, in a way. But guys, try not to get too strung up about this stuff. I put off my conferences in April and May because I'm less about me being worried about dying and more about the hysteria surrounding the mindset. Part of the reason I think the Great Recession had is people got afraid of investing their money. They got afraid of spending their money because they didn't know what to expect. There was a perception of uncertainty. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing here, and it's why I've reacted that way. But that's not going to change everything to the point of we're living in a bunker and eating survival food and, whatever. I don't think it's going to be that bad. Okay. I got a couple of comments here. Yeah, swine flu. Yeah, what is coronavirus? Very good. I don't know either. What else I want to mention? I think that covers my thoughts on the matter. Take it for what it's worth. Don't let this, my advice, don't let this detract you from your goals. The nice thing that's exciting about this for me is that when the economy collapses and things start hitting the fan, people start, well, it's not exciting in this respect. People start losing their jobs. Companies cut back. People have a hard time of hiring. And it becomes a really good opportunity for agents to recruit agents. So for me, in my position, I like it because people now become open-minded to doing crazy things like selling final expense and insurance in general. And because they don't have as many options as they thought they did. Their plans has changed all of a sudden. And I think from the perspective of us too, there's more fear. And I think getting good at this right now is going to be best. Don't let this detract from your goals. And unless people start dying in wholesale, most of the people dying are 50 and older. They're frail. And guess what? The flu, I think last year the flu killed 30,000 people. Did you guys know that? 30,000 people died because of the normal flu, which happens every single year. Where is the hysteria there? Was it this pronounced? So take it for what it is. If you guys got any questions, concerns, holler back at me. I'll be happy to help you anytime. I've got some calls this afternoon, but I'll be able to take your calls in between or text you back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. One quick question from Buck, off subject. What are your thoughts on Facebook leads versus telemarketing? I have to find a way to get me through to do both. Test some tests. Well, that's what it's going to come down to, Buck. I had an agent last week, John. He wrote all of his business on basically Facebook marketing. And they're my least favorite, but I don't argue with results either. So if you're good, you're getting results, I'm fine with an agent doing Facebook leads in addition to telemarketing, or excluding telemarketing, doing Facebook. They're interchangeable. So check out some of the vendors I have listed. If you have any questions about specific ones that I can refer, let me know, and I'll happily send it over. Okay, that's it for today. We shall see you next time. Tuesday, we're doing a review of an existing or an agent of mine, Sean in Mass. He met with a client. He recorded the conversation. We're going to do a full analysis, as much as the hour allows, of that presentation. I'm going to give you my thoughts and concerns as I read through it, listen to it, no pun intended, and it should be a good one. Okay, guys, we'll see y'all later. Bye.